Hello, it's me, Darkfry, champion of everything, and I want to talk about one of my favorite concepts the internet has come up with. Do you know what the Ryu number is? Simply put, the Ryu number is a number that represents how many degrees of separation a specific video game character is from Street Fighter Ryu. For example, since Ryu is a fighter in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, every other character featured in the roster has a Ryu number of 1, since they are in the same game as Ryu. However, King Bob-omb from Mario 64 has a Ryu number of 2, since Mario is also in Mario 64, and from there he appears in Smash Ultimate with Ryu, meaning that King Bob-omb is 2 degrees of separation away from Ryu. It's a simple enough concept, right? So why am I making such a big deal out of it? Let's rapid fire through some more Ryu numbers and see what we can find. Billy Hatcher from the critically acclaimed masterpiece of gaming, Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, has a Ryu number of 2. Agent 47, the titular hitman from the game series Hitman, has a Ryu number of 4. Madeline from Celeste has a Ryu number of 3. Negan from The Walking Dead is in Tekken 7, giving him a Ryu number of 2, which means that every character from The Walking Dead has a Ryu number of 3. Yoda is in Soul Calibur 4, giving him a Ryu number of 2, which means that Jar Jar Binks and pretty much every other Star Wars character has a Ryu number of 3. Sesame Street's Oscar the Grouch has a Ryu number of 4. Slender Man's Ryu number is 3. Guts from the manga classic Berserk has a Ryu number of 3. What? Never mind. 4. God himself has a Ryu number of 2. Chuck Norris has a Ryu number of 4. The Angry Video Game Nerd has a Ryu number of 4. Mario's Ryu number, of course, is just 1, but his voice has a Ryu number of 2. Famous Japanese novelist Soseki Natsume's Ryu number is 4. Abraham Lincoln has a Ryu number of 2. I could keep going on and on forever. If you want to see more, I suggest you follow the Twitter account @Ryu Number, which is dedicated to this. Many of the images and Ryu numbers I just showed you were from there. I highly recommend this because I adore the Ryu number. I love it because it is the insanity and absurdity of video game universes and crossovers distilled into a number. Crossovers are another feature that is much more common in video games than in other mediums. Rarely do films, books, etc. leave their own bubble. Even the MCU is largely self-contained in its own universe, and it's considered the largest crossover in film. When you consider video games, though, it's not even the biggest Marvel crossover. We have shit like Marvel vs. Capcom, which is one of the most inexplicable video games in existence. We live in a post-MVC world, so maybe people got used to it by now, but have you ever actually thought about the sequence of events that would be required for this game's creation? Then you have stuff like Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, Street Fighter X Tekken, Project X Zone, and Super Smash Bros. And that's just the ones Capcom is involved in. Basically, video game crossovers are absolutely insane, and Ryu is at the center. He is the convergence point of all these universes. He is at the very core of video game crossovers, and the Ryu number gives the concept of video game crossovers itself a concrete measurement. Being aware of the Ryu number changes your perception of the world. When Sephiroth was announced for Smash Bros. Ultimate, my first thought was that his Ryu number just went from 2 to 1. Ryu being added to Fortnite also had devastating consequences, which I can't even begin to unpack. Ryu is just 3 games away from being able to fight Eminem. And I am aware that by educating you on the Ryu number, I have similarly irreversibly changed your life forever, and for that, I apologize. Now, there's probably one pressing question you want to ask right now. But Darkfry, you say, your lips quivering in anticipation, your hands clutching your chest. An unprecedented desperation overtakes your mind as you bellow. What is my Ryu number? Do not fret, my dear, sweet viewer. I'll tell you. Now, the Ryu number is supposed to only apply to video game characters, but let's not forget that real life is a video game. That being said, there are some real, living, breathing, fleshy people that have appeared in the Street Fighter series. To name a few, Mikhail Gorbachev, Mike Tyson, and apparently Jean Reno? I couldn't really confirm this, but apparently Jean Reno is in Street Fighter? I don't know. Appear in the games, giving them a Ryu number of 1. You, my dear viewer, you, my dear viewer, are in the same video game as these people, which means that you, yes, you, have a Ryu number of 2. If you're a stickler for the rules and unsatisfied by that answer, then we can treat real life a bit differently, Karen. If we assume that the 6 degrees of separation theory is true, then that means that every living person right now is, at most, 7 degrees of separation away from Street Fighter Ryu. And isn't that just beautiful? So yeah, that's the video today, folks. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed all those wacky Ryu numbers. By the way, the script also says that Darkfry's Ryu number is 1, but that can't be right. A huge thank you to all my patrons for supporting me, with a special shout out to Emsty Nima and Philip Church. You are the best. If you like what I do, please consider supporting me on Patreon, link down below. Love ya. See you next time.